What's happening, guys? Kenny here again, and today I've got a bit of a explanation video, and what I'll be talking about today is a new type of review I'm going to be doing, which is going to be called the Apex review. And the reason it's called that is because I am now part of the Apex Pass Around group, which, for those of you guys that don't know what this is, the Apex Pass Around group is a group of reviewers which was started to kind of give a platform for not only reviewers to get knives to try without having to pay, for each knife that's released. Also, it's a way for manufacturers to get knives in reviewers' hands to get feedback. Sometimes they're prototypes, sometimes they're knives that are already, out in the market. But it gives them some feedback and lets them see what people are thinking and make adjustments accordingly. So this group was a great thing. It was started by Stassa23 and Zelric from my that's what I believe. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but yeah, this group was started by them, and it's pretty much taken care of by David from Blade Banner. So big thanks to David, and he does a lot for this community in the Apex Pass Around group, also with the data sheet for the HRC testing and everything. So David's doing a lot of stuff in the background that you guys don't see, and I want to give him a big shout out and thank you. I want to thank the Apex Pass Around group for accepting me into the group. I'm super stoked to be part of it. It'll give me a chance to get my hands on knives that I normally maybe wouldn't have purchased, or and it'll just give me that opportunity to at least see if it's something that I want to buy, or something that I want to get a more in-depth review of. So in saying that, I'm going to explain why I'm giving this a different name and everything. And the reason for that is because it's going to be very different. Not very different, but it's somewhere in between one of my first impressions videos and my hype versus reality videos. So first impressions and unboxing, obviously I'm just getting the knife in hand. If it's a first impressions, not unboxing, I've probably had it for like a day. Maybe cut a few things, put it in and out of my pocket, but it's not something I've had for a certain amount of time. Like, it hasn't been weeks with it or months with it. So those are my first impressions. And then hype versus reality, obviously that's my full in-depth comprehensive review, where I've had it for a month or two, sometimes 3-4 months. I've been able to sharpen it multiple times, use it extensively for hours, and in and out of the pocket a lot, carried it for days or weeks, you know what I mean? So I have a good grasp on what I want to say about it, all the little idiosyncrasies of the knife. And then where this is going to land is somewhere in between, where I have notes here, guys, so it's going to land somewhere in between, where I've had the knife now for, I'm going to have each knife for about 10 days, so it's longer than a first impressions. I'm not able to necessarily do the cutting and tasks that I do with my hype versus reality. I have to do very light cutting with these knives because they have to go to the next reviewer in relatively new condition. Some of them, the prototypes, have to go new condition, so there's absolutely no cutting with them. So it's not necessarily a hype versus reality type of review, but it's not necessarily a first impressions either. So I wanted to create a new platform for that. I wanted something new, something in between. So I started an Apex review is what I decided to call it. Now, in saying that, these reviews are going to have some of the aspects of the hype versus reality. Like, I'm going to have size comparisons and specs on the page. I'll talk about, I'll go into more depth about like cutting, like geometry and all these things that normally I don't necessarily touch on in first impressions. Although sometimes, like obviously behind the edge thickness and stuff like that I'll talk about sometimes. With this, I'll talk about the weight of the knife and all these things, the carry. So it's somewhere in between, and that's why I decided to go ahead and make a new name. In saying that, I'll go ahead and explain my method to these reviews. So first things first, I'll start with the overall view of the knife, my view going in. So why I chose that one out of the list of knives to choose from, what my view of the knife is from afar, like was it something I was desiring, was it something I had no interest in, you know, where I am standing, where my standing is going in. Then from there I'll go into size comparisons and specs, like I do with my Hype versus Reality. I'll probably put up, you know, Blade HQ or whatever, wherever I could get it, whether it's like, you know, drop, like mass drop, whether it's from them, where the spec sheet list comes from. Then I'll go ahead and show you size comparisons with other knives, usually knives that are similar size, but I like to give you a broad range. Then I'll go into the aesthetics. And that is subjective, guys, obviously, aesthetics. I'll talk about it on the objective level and then also a subjective level, how I feel about it. But the aesthetics of it I'll talk about, and that kind of, you know, leads into fit and finish and their execution of the design and like tolerances set by the designer. Then that kind of comes with design, which I'll talk about next. So the design of the knife, how I feel about the design, how it was executed, obviously with the fit and finish. So I'll talk about that with design and fit and finish. Those will probably be intertwined. And then action. A lot of these will kind of intertwine as I go along with the videos. You'll see in the Benchmade LA, I kind of was all over the place a little bit because a lot of the design choices came into the other aspects. So design, then I'll go into the action of the knife, like how the action is, if it's applicable and everything. And then from there I'll go into the blade, which I'll talk about blade steel, I'll talk about the choices with blade steel, I'll talk about the shape of the blade, the geometry of the blade, how it all comes together. And then, of course, that'll lead into performance, which obviously that has a lot to do with the blade. So I'll talk about the performance of the knife, which will also include ergonomics. Obviously, performance has a lot to do with ergonomics and blade and just the whole package. So performance comes next, and then after that, we'll talk about the carry. You know, the clip. Obviously, the clip goes into ergos as well. So the clip, the weight, and all that will come into carry. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be kind of intertwined, and I'm probably going to go back and forth with it a little bit. But in saying that, there is going to be pretty much a fixed method to the way that I go about these reviews. And I'll use that template in order to kind of keep everything in line. And at the end of all of that, after the carry and ergonomics and all that, it'll be the conclusion and how I feel about the knife, whether it'll be, you know, moved into my collection, like something I'm gonna buy, or whether I'm just gonna pass it along and forget about it. And then also, that's kind of why when I first got accepted into the pass around group, I kind of came up with this idea of like, oh, I should call it the Hype versus Reality trials because I'm going to be thinking about whether it's something I want to actually do a full review of. So in saying that, that was kind of an idea I had to call it that, but yeah, it's too long and just too much. So I decided to call it the Apex review. So hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys are excited for me to be part of this because it's going to mean more knives for the channel. It's also going to add another aspect, another element to the channel, and I'm really excited to be part of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want me to change anything about the way I'm going to go about it. Let me know if I'm an idiot, but just let me know what you think, and I'm really looking forward to starting this kind of new process here. So hope you guys enjoyed this and have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.